Hello everyone. Today we're going to be talking about Path of Exile 2. It's been a while since I've made a video about Path of Exile 2, because we haven't really had any new content since April. So it's good to be back, it's good to be talking about it again. And with the new season right around the corner, it'll be fun to do a predictions and hopes and dreams video, and see how much of that is actually included in the season. The feature reveal stream is tomorrow evening, so about a day and a half from after this video goes up. And we'll do another one after that video and see how many of my predictions and how many of my hopes and dreams actually make it in. And it'll also be a vehicle to discuss what we wish to see in the game and basically start a conversation about it. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. My predictions. Now these predictions I'm pretty sure will make it into the patch. I would be very surprised if anything in this section doesn't make it in. The Hopium section, not so much. We'll see when we get there. My first prediction, and it's hardly a big one, Druid is definitely in. Now we already had people playing the Druid in at ExileCon, which was 2 years ago. I think it was exactly 2 years ago. So we already know there's going to be a Druid. We've already seen its gameplay, and we have an idea how it's going to play. So it'll be fun to see how effective it is. I was actually a little surprised when they didn't include it with the release. I figured with a class as popular as Druid, it would definitely make it in, but I guess there were some issues with it, and they wanted to spend more time implementing it. So hopefully it makes it in and it's strong and people enjoy it. I've never been much of a Druid guy. I've stayed away from playing Druids in World of Warcraft. I've not played it. I don't think I've ever played it in Diablo 2. It's just not for me. The shape-shifting part, it's not that appealing to me. If there's a strictly spellcasting version, maybe I'll try it out, but I understand that it's supposed to be a hybrid, which is why I expect there to be probably 2 ascendancies. Maybe we'll get a third one, but I think it'll be 2. And one of them will be minion and spellcasting focused, and one of them will be shape-shifting and totems, I think. Probably get some totem synergy going on there, so we'll see. Second prediction, again, hardly a big one. Act 4 will definitely be included. I saw that Dark Microtransaction did a couple of interviews with some GGG staff, and they all talked about new boss designs and whatnot. And, you know, it also makes sense because we saw Act 4 being played at ExileCon, like I said, for the Druid, so I think it's about time they included it. And this one I am looking forward to, because if I have to play Cruel Act 3 one more time, I will lose my mind. Act 3 is kind of iffy as it is in my book, but especially with playing it a second time with Cruel 3, it was quite the drag. So I'm glad we're getting a new act, and I'm looking forward to seeing what new bosses and what new biomes and maps and whatnot will be included. We also know that it's going to be a Karui themed act. We'll probably be on a boat. We'll probably visit King's March. I know King's March is in the game, but I'm not sure if it's Act 4 or 5, but we'll see. Also, the act boss is probably Kulamak. Kulamak is a character that they mention a lot in Path of Exile 1 on items and whatnot, but we never actually meet him or exactly know who he is, so it will be fun to see. Armor rework. The new class being a strength int hybrid class, and armor being a mess since launch, it would make sense for them to work on it. They mentioned, I think it was Mark, he mentioned that they didn't have time to really work on an armor redesign for the previous season. But now with another strength class coming in, I'm pretty confident they will have had time to think about it and maybe redesign it. Armor's a mess. It doesn't feel impactful at all, really. It's fine for the early campaign, but it drops off really quickly, especially when you're playing Warrior, which is slow to begin with its attack times and general speed and having to position and then get off a melee attack. It felt bad. You would often die before getting a good sequence off. Even if you didn't die, you would just take a lot of damage and have to run away. It was a nightmare. Hopefully they've changed it. Hopefully they've made better. I'm looking forward to it. I know, even though I'm not looking forward to Druid, I know it's one of the most anticipated classes. People love Druid. So if it feels weak, people are going to revolt. And I'd rather not see that happen. A skill tree rework. The strength inside of the tree was probably mostly placeholders. I've tried speccing into some of the nodes before when playing Warrior. Warrior is my favorite class, unfortunately. It's also one of the toughest ones to deal with. But it always felt like that side of the tree was more placeholder-y. The strength evasion side and the strength side was better than that side. Even with all the problems the strength side had, it was still better than strength int. So I expect a big reshake there, and even, not reshake, a shake up there. And I even expect them to improve on some of the nodes on the strength side of things. There are some nodes that make no sense. We'll talk a bit more of that in the Hopium section. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do there. I expect all ascendancies for the remaining classes to be released. We may only get 2 ascendancies for Druid, maybe 3 if we're lucky, but for all the rest of the classes that are already in the game, some of them still don't have their 3rd ascendancies. We'll probably end up seeing them. Even if they are unbalanced, and I would be very surprised if they aren't unbalanced, some of them are going to be really weak. And I don't predict any of the weaker ascendancies to be overhauled that much until closer to release, until we have most of the other classes out and they have a better feedback on what works and what doesn't work and class balance in general. So I don't expect anything too big there, but we should get to at least see what the class designs are. It'll be fun to see. A new trial. Now this one is also not a big surprise. They've told us that the new trial will be an Act 4. And they've told us that it would be the Trial of the Ancients, which is a Path of Exile 1 league that came out a couple of years ago. I really enjoyed that league. I had a lot of fun in that league. And I thought the mechanic was fine, although a little unbalanced at the higher levels. It's kind of like a MOBA version, but within Path of Exile, and you rank up, and as you rank up, you fight against more difficult waves and more difficult bosses, but you get a lot better loot. The loot was really fun. I remember it being really good, but it would get a little frustrating at the higher levels. Some of the bosses you would have to fight would be a little too spicy. So we'll see how they do it. I also expect them, since it's going to be a core part of the game that we're going to have to keep doing, I expect there to be more depth than what we got in Path of Exile 1. I'm looking forward to seeing what we do here. And more importantly, if I can skip the Trial of Chaos, never have to do it, and just, wait it out and get my 2nd and 3rd ascendancies with just the Trial of the Ancients, I would be more than happy for that to happen. Because I really do think the Trial of Chaos needs a lot of work. A lot of work. And there's more of that in the Hopium section. Alright. We're going to be getting 2, maybe 3 new Pinnacle bosses. This is no surprise. One of them will be a Tota boss. One of them this one I'm a bit iffy on. It may have something to do with one of the new bosses we get in one of the acts. Maybe it's an endgame mapping thing. We'll see how that goes. But one of them will definitely be for a Pinnacle boss that's related to the actual League mechanic. So we'll also probably get an Atlas progression tree to do with the new League mechanic, but I think that's a given, so hardly a surprise there. Now this one I find convincing. Rumors are that the new League mechanic will be Abyss. I've also heard rumors that it may be Delve. I'm not sure on Delve, even though I've mentioned it here in the prediction side. I don't think we're going to get Delve yet. I think it's something that they'll do later. But Abyss, on the other hand, it makes sense. The color scheme works. It would be good to have in Path of Exile 2 because, for those of you who don't know, in Path of Exile 1, Abyss drops Abyssal Jewels. And Abyssal Jewels are basically jewels that you can socket into equipment. And some of the effects you would get from there would be kind of powerful, and we need more power in this game for our character builds. We need more variations, different options to solve problems with our characters. It would help us solve problems in different ways. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with Abyssal Jewels. It makes sense that it would be in the game, and I hope they make it fun. I think Abyss is fine in Path of Exile 1, but you always went for Abyssal Troves, basically. You didn't really go into the subterranean. So what would happen is you would chase a fissure in the ground, and then occasionally an abyss would open up, and you'd have creatures jump out, and you would kill a wave, and then maybe you would do it one or two more times. And at the end, you would get this Abyssal Trove, this chest, and it would spit out a bunch of items. And it would be a lot of fun to deal with. Sometimes you would get, if you spec'd into it, you would get a cave into the subterranean abyssal levels, and you would fight an abyssal boss. I've never really done that part. We always went for the Trove. Worst case, it's a lot of mobs to kill and drop loot from, so it's fun in that sense. And I think it would be fun if they made it a little different. Not an exact port from Path of Exile 1, but maybe they add a different spin to it. We'll see. I'm looking forward to seeing what they announce there. New unique items. Now, with the new League mechanic, maybe we'll see some abyssal items. There is a belt called the Darkness Enthroned belt in Path of Exile 1, which is a unique Stygian Vice belt. A Stygian Vice belt is basically your regular belt with your regular affixes that you roll. If you drop your rare Stygian Vice, you craft it regularly as you would any other belt, but instead of an implicit, it would just have an abyssal jewel slot. And you would add a jewel to it, and most endgame builds actually, if you're not using unique belt, you would just use a Stygian Vice because it's just that much better. So again, it would add a lot to the game. The Darkness Enthroned belt is a Stygian Vice, but the abyssal slot in it is up to 100 times more effective. Maybe they'll make it so you have 2 slots. We'll see how they go around it. But I think we'll get the Darkness Enthroned. And I think we may get the Impulse's Broken Heart chess piece. I believe, if I recall correctly, it was added with Abyss League back in the day. And what that does is, when you kill shocked enemies that you've shocked, they basically explode and deal 5% of their 5% of their HP as damage to their surrounding creatures. So you can get good cascading explosions going on, and it's a fun clear mechanic. It kind of did drop off in the last few years. There are just better mechanics and better skill combos that work. But back in the day, this was pretty broken, and I hope it's powerful in this one, if we get it. New endgame crafts. This is hardly a surprise. They said that they would announce new crafts with every expansion, every patch. And in this one, I think it'll be something to do with modifying implicits on our items. I don't think we can really modify implicits at all. I don't recall having any options to do it in PoE 2, at least in the campaign. So maybe we'll get Blessed Orbs or other ways to change our implicits. Looking forward to seeing what they do there. We're definitely getting new endgame crafts. This is just a minor prediction to see if it makes it in. I'm also going to be looking forward to the new weapon types and graphics with the new act. The new act is going to be bringing in new biomes, obviously. That means more stuff in the endgame. But more importantly, when we completed the first 3 acts and went on to Cruel, it was kind of frustrating going back to weapon art for the first 3 acts, like having to go back and see the same graphics over and over again. At least this will add a bunch of new items, new graphics. It'll feel like we're progressing even further. I hope, well, not hope, we're definitely getting this with the new act. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to actually getting more powerful weapons that look different. It's a minor thing, but it's kind of important for me. Alright, this is the Hopium section. I would be surprised if most of these, or any of these, make it in for that matter. But these are things I would like to see, and I think would make the game a lot better. So let's get started. I hope, now this one is probably not going to happen, but I hope we get a new melee weapon. I'm hoping for sword, but I guess they'll release that with the gladiator or duelist class. And I know the flail is a Templar thing, so we probably won't see the flail. Axe, on the other hand, even though it is technically a marauder weapon, I'm hoping we see an axe. That would be great. Axes have always been fun. And having another weapon set that I can use on my warrior other than maces would be nice. I know you can use quarterstaves and spears, but it doesn't feel very warrior-y. It doesn't feel that class fantasy for me, and I love playing warrior. Especially the quarterstaff, you need to scale it with int, and that's hard to do. And also thematically a little different than what I would envision my warriors to be doing. So I'm looking forward to see it, although I have very little hope for this. But trust me, if they do add a new melee weapon, oh, I will be celebrating. I hope they expand the functionality for the Orb of Annulments. I hope they take away more affixes. I hope they add Orbs of Alterations. For those of you who don't know, Orbs of Alterations in Path of Exile 1 basically reroll your magic affixes. So you don't have to get a white weapon, transmute it, and then add another affix. And if it's not what you want, you throw the entire item into the trash without even crafting further. You would just keep spamming alterations on it until you got what you wanted, and I think we need it in the game. Especially after playing Path of Exile 1 again, after a long time. After playing Path of Exile 2 exclusively for such a long time, going back with the new league. One of the things I missed a lot in Path of Exile 1, I realized, was the Orb of Alterations. It just felt so good to be able to reroll our items as much as we wanted, at least for the first two affix that we want. I would like to see more drops for lower tier currencies for campaign progression. So what I mean by this is currently I play hardcore SSF exclusively. And I'm not that great at the game. I'm not like your Bens or your, I don't know, your Tai Killers or your Zizaruns who basically never die in the campaign. I die in the campaign all the time. You can see all of the YouTube shorts that I have on the channel. I die a million times, and it's fine. And I think the challenge is fun, and I think the game should not be designed for hardcore SSF. I agree with that. However, the campaign, if you're playing SSF, and I'm sure the softcore SSF players will tell you the same thing, it's very hard to solve progression problems that you have to get over with your character. It's very difficult to do it with the current options you have in the game right now. So what do I mean by this? Right now, pretty much every currency item affects only one affix per use. So what do I mean by that? It means you get one affix when you transmute an item. When you regal an item, it adds one affix. When you use an essence on an item, it adds only one affix. And I actually like Path of Exile 2 a little bit more than Path of Exile 1 because I've played Path of Exile 1 for thousands of hours at this point, and Path of Exile 2 is new and it's fresh. But also, the combat is much more preferable to me. I like Path of Exile 2's positioning. I like its more active combat compared to Path of Exile 1. Now, that being said, after playing Path of Exile 1, the amount of tools and options we had to solve these problems that I mentioned, it felt like a huge relief. And it made me realize that solving problems in Path of Exile 2 is just frustrating. It's not fun. And having more campaign drops would also alleviate a lot of the problems that people have with the trade mechanics in the game, because in the campaign you have to change your items every 5 to 8 levels, right? 10 at maximum. The way things are right now in SSF, you could be doing Cruel Act 5, you could be in the middle of Cruel Act 5 and still be wearing, I don't know, a ring or an amulet from from the end of Act 2. There are very few ways other than gambling to actually level up your items, and even gambling, as it implies, it's just gambling. You're not guaranteed to get what you need. And in the trade leagues, you have to start trading very early and very frequently. And that gives people, that means more people are trying to trade and more people are facing the friction that GGG want trading to have. Now, I'm not against that friction, but when you have to go through it every 5 or 6 levels, especially when you're a dad with 7 kids and you just got home after a long day of work. I get the frustration. You just want to blast through the few maps that you have time for, and you don't want to be waiting for somebody to reply to you. Go to their hideout, wait for an hour while all of their graphics load in, and then hope they give you the item, and hope that when you're selling an item, for example, they give you the amount you want. Like, I understand the frustration there, believe me. And giving people more tools, more options to solve their character build problems early on would alleviate that issue. Less time trading. You would only have to trade at the end game, and believe me, when you're trading for end game items, it feels better, even if you end up waiting a lot, like actually getting that item, because you know you're going to use that item for a long time, as opposed to campaign trash, which you know you're just going to disenchant or sell in a few levels. So long story short, I've rambled on a little bit here, but I think it's one of the most important problems with the game right now. I think for the campaign, we need more options. We need more bang for our buck. One use of a currency, one item of currency should do more than just affect one affix. It feels bad in the campaign when you have to keep changing your items. And any of you who've tried crafting in the campaign in Path of Exile 2 will know that it's almost impossible. What I've been doing in the last patch, what I've been doing lately is I would find a yellow chest close to a waypoint or a spawn point, and I would keep running that chest over and over again, because it's the only place where you can guarantee a yellow chest to drop a rare item. It's the only place you can reliably drop loot from, and you either disenchant that for more money to gamble, or you either sell that to gamble for more money, or you disenchant to try and get more chances at a currency that you can use to gamble. But at the end of the day, it's more fun even farming that chest, which doesn't sound like a fun thing to do, and by all means in Path of Exile 1 wouldn't be fun to do. In Path of Exile 2 it's fun because it's the only place where you can actually get items. I keep farming sometimes for an hour and a half just to get the items I want, or build up enough currency to be able to gamble as much as I want to level up. And I don't think the campaign should be that frustrating. I think it just makes the game more unfun. Give us more options to craft our items, to make our items better, especially when we have to change them as much. So enough yapping. I've yapped a lot about this, but it is because I do think this is the most important issue I have with the game. So I hope they add more currency drops, make currency more effective, at least drop abundantly lower levels of alchemy. Orbs of alchemy are the best currency you can use in the campaign, because one use gives you 4 affixes, right? And even in Path of Exile 1, when you use an Orb of Alchemy, you can get up to 6 affixes, and that feels great, especially for an item you're just going to use for a few levels and throw away. So just give us something. GGG, please. Like 50 people are going to watch this video, and they're never going to see it, but please, if anyone can get to them, please, just more bang for our buck, please. I beg them. So, yeah, that's enough yapping for that. We need some map reworks for previous acts, making some of the larger maps less mazy and smaller in size. In Act 1, the underground maps we have to go through before the cemetery, it's very frustrating, especially at the start of the game when you're slow, when you may not even have move speed on your boots and you're just crawling along, and you end up going through so many dead ends until you find the right path. It's frustrating, it's annoying, it's slow, and especially in that map when you can't really tell without looking at the minimap if that gap really is a gap or if it's just a wall that you can't exactly see from your current position. So maybe it's even a longer way to go around it. It's just frustrating. It's annoying, and you also get like these narrow corridors where there's poison and shit all over the floor and degen and it's just not fun to deal with. Also, some maps are still too large. The few maps they did fix felt great when they decreased the size, and they could do more. There are still some maps in Act 3 that are too long and too frustrating to deal with. There are maps in Act 3 that I dread going through. Like, I just wish I didn't have to do it at all. And I'm okay with ARPGs having that one or two levels or biomes that is very unwelcoming and just hated. Like even in Dark Souls, you've got the swamp areas, nobody likes it. But it's fun to deal with up till a certain point, and then when you get over it, you're just like, oh, I never have to deal with that again. And that feels good. But when it goes on for as long as Act 3 does, it's just sad. It's just very frustrating. So I hope they make some of the maps a lot smaller. Also, this is a small aside. It's not in any of the points here, but I know people are okay with the silverback in Act 3. I know it's a noob filter or whatever, but trust me, with the wonky hit box that monkey has, especially with its big column attack, sometimes you'll think you're clear and you're not. You'll be pushed into it and you'll end up dying anyway. And especially on a slow warrior melee character, when you're hitting really slow, you end up trying to position yourself for longer than you are hitting it, so the fight takes a lot longer, and one mistake or one misplaced positioning, one misplaced step can lead to you dying. It's just incredibly frustrating, and I hope, like, it's not a fun design. The silverback is not a fun boss to deal with, and I hope they tweak it further. At least make the hitbox predictable, but I don't think we're getting that anytime soon, at least until the beta's over. But please, the silverback, it's frustrating. Like the few times I do I do stream the game, even the people in my chat, the 5 to 10 people who actually watch me play Path of Exile 2, they'll know, they'll see me stressing out. Like if I know that if I can get past the silverback, I'll probably do the entirety of Act 3 without any problems. That's how bad the silverback is. So please, some of the maps are too mazy, some Act 3 is too large in many areas, and the silverback boss is incredibly obtuse if you're playing a melee character. Again, I've been yapping for too long. Let's move on to the next one. Too many negative sides on the skill tree. The skill tree, the biggest issue, it's been said since the game's release. I don't understand why there are so many negative modifiers to the notables, and even some of the smaller nodes. Like you'll get some of the small passive nodes that give you -1% to your move or your skill speed. I mean, warrior is slow enough. Why have minus skill speed or move speed nodes on the warrior, which is already incredibly slow? It's just frustrating. When you see it, you just think to yourself, why are they torturing us? It's not solving any problems. I know the idea is for you to think, oh, this is going to make me a lot more powerful, but there's a drawback to it. Like, nobody thinks that way. It's just frustrating. It's just sad. You end up just either skipping it entirely or just being upset, especially when you don't have any ways to negate the effects of those modifiers with items, for the previously mentioned reason of not having many options to craft or improve your gear. So please, it's fine for keystones, because keystones affect your character in really important and significant ways. It's fine for keystones, but there shouldn't be so many downsides to just regular nodes, notables, and small passives, please. I hope they get around to that, but I don't think it'll be in this patch. Charges are underwhelming. Passive effects would help immensely. We need more function to the charges than just the builder-spender function. It's oftentimes skills that don't use charges are just easier and more fun to use than trying to get a charge. And then so what will happen is you'll build up your charges, and then you'll try to find an enemy to use it on immediately within the next 20 seconds, and that's not fun, because often you'll be just on the huge maps where you're slowly just slogging along. You're looking for a mob to use it, and then in the last couple of seconds you'll just use it on one guy, and it's just not fun. It's very rare that you build up all your charges and then you actually get to use it in a satisfying way. And even if in the chances that you do it, let's say in a boss fight, it's still better to use a lot of the skills that don't require charges to get off. It's just easier. It's less frustrating. So please, give us passive effects to the charges like in Path of Exile 1. It's fun. Then juggling your charges, trying to build up more charges before the cooldown goes on. That'll make it more fun. As opposed to now just crawling through the map trying to find something to use your charges on. It would just be so much better. No Cruel Act 3. Now, this one I am a little hopeful for with Act 4. I hope it goes Act 1, 2, 3, 4, and then Cruel Act 1 or 2. Or maybe, and this is the real hope, or maybe we just go into maps early. Like, as soon as we're done with Act 4, we go immediately into the maps at a lower level. It would be great. More people would get to witness the endgame. We would be able to test more things. I know, like, because I play hardcore SSF and I suck, I would actually make it to the end game a lot more and actually be able to provide more feedback and witness it. But not just me, but most players, whenever they release statistics about this, most players don't make it past the acts. All the streamers we watch may do it, and when you read the Path of Exile subreddit, everyone will be talking about the end game, and it seems like everyone's getting there, but believe me, a lot of the players don't ever get there. So it'll be fun if we could get there without replaying any of the acts. It'll be less of a slog, it'll be more refreshing, and we get to test the end game out a lot better. Speaking of end game, I hope that we get a rework of end game map juicing. The tablets should work everywhere. One of the best parts about the Path of Exile 1 endgame is that you can juice it to whatever degree you want with whatever factors you want. Now, if you want to do Expedition, you kind of have to find those nodes on the map. If you want to buff them, you need to go to a tower and then place a tablet, and it's just not fun. And this is something that everyone keeps repeating. This is hardly news. Like, everyone complains about this, and I think it's a valid complaint. The towers, maybe they should give us a vision of where the big bosses or other big endgame events are. Or maybe you can do like a tiered tower. You could build up to a big tower boss fight. So every tower you go to shows you the next tower that you need to progress in, and after maybe 2 or 3 of those, you get into a big fight and it drops unique items or there's a unique boss. Like, that would be more fun. Let us use our tablets to juice our maps whenever we want. It would just be so much more fun. Or let us juice everywhere and still keep the tower juicing active. Just make the tower juice significantly more effective. Have it affect more maps. It would just be so much better than what we have now. But I'm pretty sure they know about this, and we'll probably see some modifications to the endgame, but I'm not sure if they'll redesign the towers from the ground up. We'll see. Additions and rework to mace skills. This is a personal thing. I've said previously in the video, I love playing warrior classes in these games. I love big sticks and big hammers. Hitting a mob with a very large hammer has always been the ultimate power fantasy for me, and it's something I do with every ARPG I play with. Whether it's Diablo, whether it's Path of Exile, whether it's Dark Souls or Elden Ring or whatever. Hitting something with a big hammer is always very satisfying, and in this game it's just not satisfying. Because the amount of time it takes you to actually charge up and use a skill, actually land it, see the effect, position yourself, it's a nightmare to deal with. So I hope they do something to improve it. I hope with the possible armor and strength reworks, we might get something for mace skills as well. We'll see. Also, maybe having more melee weapons. I mentioned it with the axe thing, but having more than 3 melee weapons would also be fun and allow us to test more things. I hope they I hope they get around to it. And again, with the mace, one of the most frustrating things is the hard-coded, unmodifiable cooldowns before using the skill again, except it's not called a cooldown because you can scale the cooldown with items. But, for example, the leap slam, it's always 0.6 seconds. You can never make it shorter. Like, if we're investing into our character, let us spam our leaps back to back. It's already frustrating playing as a warrior. Let us jump all over the place, scream in our opponent's faces and kill everything. Just let us do it. More drops and crafting options in the campaign. Mentioned this before. While the game shouldn't be balanced around hardcore SSF, I do agree the reason why hardcore SSF is fun is because it's a big challenge. However, as mentioned previously, you just don't have enough answers to all the questions the game throws at you, all the problems the game throws at you. You don't have enough ways to deal with those issues. So you'll see that even most of the hardcore SSF players just end up playing on hardcore trade because it's just the only way to actually deal with anything. It's the only way to reliably gear your character enough to get past the humps in the campaign and the end game. So again, I know this is reiterating the previous point, but we need more crafting options, more drop options. We just need more solutions to the problems. Trial of Chaos nerf, talked a little bit about it before. It's incredibly annoying to deal with, especially as a melee class. Now Druid, people who are playing a melee Druid with bear form, they're going to also hate it. They're going to have a hard time with it, with the way things are. Even though it's a lot better now than it was months ago, I think it still needs a little bit of work. Because with the Trial of the Sekimas, there are ways to make you stronger for that trial. You use those relics that buff you. There are ways around it. With Tota, you're going to be able to recruit better and stronger minions to help you out. In the Trial of Chaos, it just feels bad because every level just makes things harder and harder and harder. And if you draw a bad modifier, you just have to abandon it oftentimes if you don't want to die. And again, it's not challenging, it's just frustrating. Getting your ascendancy points is one of the most satisfying things in Path of Exile. In Path of Exile 1, nobody likes doing the trials either, but when you do it's sufficiently annoying enough that when you finally get the ascendance point, it just feels amazing. And it doesn't drag on for too long. But the Trial of Chaos, it drags on for too long, and you're not even guaranteed to finish it. So I hope they do something to Trial of Chaos, because the way things are currently, I don't know, at least not make it a trial. Make it a mechanic in the game, sure, but don't make it a trial that everyone has to go through. Hopefully we won't have to with Tota, but still, if you want getting your ascendancy points as soon as they become available should be something that everyone strives for. Instead, I just moan when it's just one of the other things that I hate about Act 3. I really hate Act 3 in a game I otherwise love. Some skills need to be shared between weapon types, although it's still very early since half the weapon types aren't even in the game yet. I mean, I hope they get around to this eventually. Like when Cyclone eventually comes out, it would be really ridiculous if we can only do it with a sword or an axe or whatever they decide to give Cyclone to. It needs to be, some skills need to be shared. And playing Path of Exile 1, for the melee skills, I was actually surprised to see that there were more limitations, weapon limitations for the skills we use than I remember. But you can always use at least 2 or 3 different weapon types for those skills. It's very rare that you can. I think Glacial Hammer is the only one where you have to use a hammer. And all the other ones you can use claws or daggers or a couple of other things. So yeah, just allow us to share the skills with more weapons. It would, even if the meta won't probably change, it would give people something to theory craft with, more sand to play with in the sandbox. But I wouldn't expect them to do it with this patch. Maybe towards the end of the beta before they do full release. Apparently here, I've talked about currency drops in general again. I'm not going to talk about this in depth again, but more currency drops in general. Playing Path of Exile 1 again after Path of Exile 2, you realize how more currency drops don't mean it's an easier game. It's just more options to deal with problems and roadblocks that appear. We don't have enough of that at all in Path of Exile 2. We also need currencies that do more than affect 1 affix per use, like Orbs of Alchemy. Talked about it before. This is, I still stand by this. I mean, I've repeated it 3 times. That's how strongly I feel about this. We need craft options or runes to modify boots to have speed. Oh yeah. Boots are useless if they don't have speed. And I know we have movement speed runes in the end game, but for the campaign, we have no way. If we drop boots and they have no move speed, especially with the limited crafting options, you basically end up trashing your boots all the time. Most of our gambles are for boots. That's how hard it is to get move speed on the boots. Otherwise, it's just useless. I've tried so many good boots with excellent stats just because it doesn't have move speed, and it's very hard to modify items that have already dropped the way they are in this game. So even the box farming I was talking about, the yellow box farming for the guaranteed rare drops, it was mostly to get good boots and good weapons. So yeah, I hope they find a solution to boots in the campaign, because most of the time you're just trashing the boots. None of the other slots feel this restrictive. Finally, a lot of people will be unhappy with the changes or additions. Like, even I've talked about how there are a lot of things I hate about the game. But in general, I love the game, and I think GGG are one of the better companies that do these games, do these large live service games, if you will. I think they're less predatory than pretty much everyone else. And last patch was actually really frustrating to see all the hate they got, especially the amount of hate Jonathan got. It was ridiculous. I understand that people, like, the interview he did with Zizaran was so frustrating to watch. And it's clear, like, Ziz is a very chill, cool guy. Like, you could tell that he was so frustrated from everyone. I think it was on the fourth or fifth day after the patch's release. And I know that people who didn't like the nerfs, who didn't like the patch, were just, they don't have an outlet. So they either go to the Path of Exile subreddit to complain, or the forums, but even there they don't get a response. It's just an endless wall of hate. But what people do is they go to the bigger streamers of the game and just complain to them nonstop, because they think that, you know, there's a higher chance of their complaints going to GGG through the streamer. And it just led to so much awkwardness and just so much negativity, and it affects the way you play the game. If you want to watch a few interviews and see what's like, just seeing the hate and just seeing everything, it was really frustrating. So I hope we get less of that this time. At least we got a new Path of Exile 1 league, and we're going to continue getting Path of Exile 1 leagues. I think a lot of the frustration with people was because they couldn't play Path of Exile 1 for a long time, and I kind of get that. I mean, I love Path of Exile 1 too, but come on. Harassing the guy endlessly and threatening him won't get you anywhere either. But anyway, enough yapping. I hope overall it's a much more positive launch. I hope there's less negativity. There's always going to be negativity. The Path of Exile subreddit will never be happy, but at least I hope the abuse is at least at an acceptable minimum. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say. Sorry I got a little preachy at the end there, but, you know, I just hope this is a good experience for all of us. I'll see you guys in the next video after the reveal trailer, reveal stream, and when we go through everything that made it in, that didn't make it in, and then we'll see what we anticipate for the actual release, which will happen in about a little over a week. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.